Argentinian Kanchelskis or a fiery El Bechito whose bark is worse than his bite? Just how good is Alejandro Garnacho?
That's not the worst pass he's played. Oh, and the goalkeeper in trouble. It's a gift for Garnacho. A catastrophe for Manchester City.
Garnacho is a dynamic forward with a strong knack of getting into goal-scoring positions. I'd say one of his strengths is his movement. It's a standout trait. He can position himself quite intelligently to exploit gaps in defences, making him a constant menace. He's tenacious, he's opportunistic, he's someone who's reactive and quick-footed, pounces on loose balls, capitalises on defensive lapses, versatile in terms of his finishing. His finesse shot is probably standout type of shot. He can curl the ball with precision into the far corners, but also someone capable of scoring spectacular volleys. He's quite audacious. He tries things that others wouldn't, but then that also means that whilst he generates a huge number of goal-scoring opportunities, a bit like a Cristiano Ronaldo, he's a high-volume shooter who maybe struggles in terms of his decision-making. Sometimes he's overly eager to shoot, taking on low percentage efforts. I'd also say that in terms of his finishing, it can be a bit panicky, it can be a bit rushed. So I think he needs to improve on his composure as well. I'd say he's similar to players like Martinelli and Rashford in that sense. So he really does need to improve his composure. Overall, I'd say he's a live wire forward with a strong goal threat. Definitely generates goal scoring opportunities, is a versatile finisher, but he's inconsistent. He needs to improve his IQ in front of goal, improve his composure in front of goal, and then he could be a bit more of a prolific and reliable goal scorer.
Bruno Fernandes, Ericsson was in there, Garnacho!
Just passed my FIFA agents exam, so I'm now officially a FIFA licensed football agent. So if you're a young player who needs advice, whether it's nutrition, whether it's technical, tactical, psychological, I can guide your career from academy level all the way to the pro level. If you're an existing pro level player and you need representation when it comes to contract negotiations, as well as all that technical stuff, transfer strategy, what's the best steps to take with your career, we can give you that guidance. We also work closely with clubs and directors of football, helping them with issues such as scouting, how to get the best out of their personnel, giving coaches tactical guidance as well. All the services that we can provide are all available on our website. Check the description below. So if you want Pythagoras in Boots as your football agent or even as a consultant, please don't hesitate to get in touch.
Sandro Martinez. Here's Garnacho.
In terms of link-up play, Garnacho has room for significant improvement. Yes, he's got this ability to protect the ball. He's strong. He's got low centre of gravity. When he's facing forward and the game's unfolding in front of him, he's not that bad. His link-up play improves noticeably. He can connect quickly with teammates via 1-2s. Generally, though, when he's dropping deeper, his passing accuracy is underwhelming. Overall rate of close to 80%, which is not really world-class. And it drops to 67% for forward passes. So this is a player who's struggling in terms of his IQ when he's trying to progress the ball from these deeper areas. Often he's just having to pass back because he hasn't really scanned correctly. He hasn't really got that pause on the ball of, say, an Eden Hazard who excelled at receiving the ball deep. Almost felt like a deep line playmaker sometimes when he picked the ball up. Garnacho doesn't really have that same pause. Compared to players like Grealish, Saka, they're much more comfortable at picking the ball up deep, linking up with play and then moving the play forward. Garnacho's not really a wide playmaker in this sense.
Mazraoui. Garnacho.
Gavin Ward didn't see it that way. Garnacho for Manchester United. Rashford!
In terms of creativity, I wouldn't say it's a defining feature of Garnacho's game, but there's intriguing signs that suggest he's got the potential to develop into a more effective creative outlet. I would say he leans more towards direct play, individualism, but there is untapped creative potential here. He demonstrates particular effectiveness with cutbacks from the left flank, driving toward the byline and then using his weak foot to deliver accurate passes to the centre of the penalty area behind him, finding those midfield late runs. In terms of layoff passing in general from wider areas, I think he has this ability to execute quick, precise passes to advancing teammates. In terms of deeper crosses / lofted through balls from a wider position, I think he's got the potential to deliver well-timed, accurate deliveries. I think he's got vision. I think the main problem with him is inconsistency in terms of weighting that through ball, under-hitting, over-hitting, acknowledging when the pass is going to be cut out. I think this is the main reason why he lacks that elite level central creativity. I think compared to someone like Diallo gives me the vibes of someone that could develop into a very cerebral type of wide playmaker, whereas Garnacho reminds me more of a Madueke, Martinelli type of football brain, where they will find these moments where they thread balls through, but it's almost more of a scattergun approach rather than being super intricate.
Manchester United on the front foot. Garnacho, that's a lovely back heel for Reguilon. Alejandro Garnacho taking on Veltman. Nothing much in that.
In terms of dribbling, Garnacho is statistically pretty impressive. Frequency of dribbles, solid success rate, ability to progress the ball effectively, but the eye test reveals limitations that prevent him from being considered a truly elite dribbler at this stage of his career. He performs well metrics wise, but in terms of trickery, I'd say he's got a solid repertoire of skill moves, step overs, croqueta. He can unbalance defenders in one-on-one situations, and he's also got low center of gravity. And that allows him to dribble with the laces, keeping the ball close to his feet. He can generate good momentum. But what I would say is that from the left side of the pitch, there's a limit to it. When he's up against good defenders, his down the line dribbling, I find it limited. Whereas if he was dribbling from the right side, I think there's a higher ceiling there in terms of who he can dribble past, because he's got a better burst down the line down the right flank compared to the left. And then when he cuts in, he really takes people by surprise. Whereas with the left flank, it's pretty predictable. And I think another issue he's got is this inability to create significant separation from defenders. When he's gone past a player, he doesn't really have that acceleration or power to burst away, compared to, say, a Lamine Yamal type of player. Even someone like Hazard, who is also quite close control, limited athleticism, he could burst past players and leave them for dead. I don't think Garnacho's quite got that. He's not that explosive as a player. I think when he's dribbling in more central areas, because he can go two ways, that makes him a bit more unpredictable. Like I said, right side as well, pretty good. So overall, I think statistically pretty strong dribbler, but to reach the level of truly elite dribblers, I think he needs to somehow find more explosiveness, add even more variety to his dribbling, and really separate himself from defenders once he's gone past them.
Garnacho, Højlund waiting.
He's got Højlund in the middle here, he's got Ahmad too. And Ahmad scores for Manchester United!
In terms of Garnacho's crossing, it's a big part of his game. He's a high volume crosser. The accuracy rate is quite low, but I think that's unfair, and the eye test suggests that this is a player with his weak foot. He can find players in the box quite easily. He's good at drilling passes across the 6-yard area, finding cutbacks. I think his inverted crosses are solid. They've got good whip. I think the reason why the accuracy rate is so low is that sometimes he doesn't really read the situation in terms of, is that cross going to get blocked? His crosses frequently do get blocked, particularly when he goes down the line. He doesn't really have that pace to beat his man and leave them for dead and then put the ball in without anything blocking it. Because he gets caught up quite quickly, the cross gets blocked, and that obviously leads to a failed cross, and that affects his accuracy rate in general. So overall, I think it is a strength. He just needs to fine-tune when that cross can go in and when it can't, because the technique is solid.
Garnacho. Drilled across by him. Oh!
Here's Dallo. And by Casemiro. It's just over the top.
In terms of his aerial ability, Garnacho's performance is notably underwhelming, both statistically and also based on the eye test. I think inside the box, he's slightly a bit better. He shows a bit more courage, a bit more of a willingness to challenge for the aerial balls. I think it's because he senses a goal-scoring opportunity, so his determination increases in these moments. In terms of his leap, it's decent. But what I would say is that outside of the box, such a poor success rate, 14%. So he's someone who's very ineffective outside of the box. He looks less motivated to engage in aerial duels in deeper areas of the pitch. I don't think he's utilizing his body. He's getting out-muscled. He's getting out-jumped. So his technique lacks the physicality and the cleverness to gain advantage in these type of situations. So I think overall there's a lack of consistency in terms of the effort that he puts into his aerial ability, and there's an overall lack of aggression.
The only way was up for United, but obviously not.
Well, I didn't necessarily buy into that.
To nutmeg Conor Bradley, but wasn't able to retrieve it. There is still plenty fight left to this game.
Defensively, Garnacho's pretty solid from a statistical point of view. 60% duel success rate, nothing to be sniffed at. In terms of defensive actions per game, it's good, but I think it can be greater, especially with someone who's got his mindset of a tenacious fighter. He's someone that doesn't really shy away from these physical confrontations along the ground. He's got that willingness to track back. He's a scrappy, aggressive type of player. So why shouldn't he be putting in even better numbers than he currently does? I think in terms of his positional awareness, it can get better. But generally, his tackling, it's aggressive enough. And I think he's someone that doesn't really give away much fouls. So I think overall, this is a player that could be converted into quite an effective defensive player for an attacking player. He's got the raw attributes. He's quick enough. He's tenacious. He is aggressive. So why can't he be that scrappy ball winner who slide tackles and really annoys opponents? So I think Garnacho has this ability to make him a candidate for teams that look to press the ball high up the pitch. And even I personally think even in Amrim's system, he could have been a wing back and he could have been quite effective from a defensive point of view. It's just the off the pitch stuff which has completely taken everyone by surprise, and that's brought into doubt his attitude. But if you actually look at him on the pitch, I think he's quite a hard-working player.
Morgan Gibbs White, who in September became the first Nottingham Forest player to be kept by England since Stuart Pearce in the 90s.
In terms of Garnacho's long passing, 60% accuracy rate is decent, but he does attempt too many long balls, I think, in terms of his overall game. He's got this ability to spot runs, identify opportunities for switches of play. He's also got two-footed ability, so he can use his left foot and his right foot for switches of play. Where the weakness is for me is in terms of the technique. I think when he uses his instep, he's quite effective, he's quite reliable. When he starts to use the outside of the foot or the laces technique, I don't think he's quite mastered that art yet. Sometimes the ball can just go out of play or be played in behind his teammate rather than into their stride. So overall decision making as well. Sometimes he goes for the Hollywood ball when a simple pass is on. So yeah, overall an attribute which I'd say it's pretty solid, but it requires a lot of work to take it to an elite level.
United to number 14. Better from space.
We're just going to look at Chelsea very quickly from a tactical point of view. This is their recent lineup against Wolves. We can see that Madueke is someone who's relied upon to provide width on his own. Someone like James or Gusto or whoever, which fullback is ever playing on the right side, is usually expected to tuck in and form part of the midfield, give them extra control rather than bomb down the line and encourage Madueke to constantly come inside. Instead, Madueke is meant to do everything on his own, almost single-handedly. Down the other side, you've got Neto, who's a left-footed player, who's expected to go down the line and put crosses in first time. He's there to provide the width, whereas Cucurella doesn't really overlap that often. He tends to sort of hang back in this position, almost form a back three at times, sometimes tuck into midfield as well, and at times overlap. But generally, these two wingers are quite isolated. Now, let's take them out and imagine how Garnacho fits into the situation. So if Garnacho comes into the team to replace Neto and they keep Madueke out wide, the issue you've got then is two sort of inverted players. Garnacho also likes to invert. And where's the width coming then to cross from both these areas of the pitch? I think that pairing for me doesn't really make sense because it puts extra emphasis on the fullbacks to get an overlap. And we know that Maresca doesn't really like this in terms of his style of play, his philosophy. So I think it would probably make more sense if Garnacho was to be used on the right flank instead and almost replicate what Neto was providing down the left. Now, if you've got Neto and Garnacho both, it's almost like having wing backs who are hugging the touchline and putting crosses in at the same time. And you're getting maximum width there with both these fullbacks tucking in. So this is a type of formation that I could see against the low block. It could potentially work, provided that these players in the middle are effective with their aerial chances and their delivery coming in from wide areas. Another potential combination is Garnacho out on the right, Sancho out on the left, or vice versa. And that way you've got Garnacho providing the straight down the line width that a Neto provides, and then Sancho can do the interplay and the inverting coming in from the left side. So these are the combinations I can see working out from Garnacho at Chelsea from a tactical perspective. In conclusion, I think Garnacho does bring a slight tactical upgrade for Chelsea in terms of variety of options. Because he can go down the right, I think he can potentially replicate what Neto does down the left, and it does give them more options. But why not use Sancho there? Save that £60 million if you really want to utilize Sancho to maximum effect. He's proven at Dortmund that he can play down the line as a right winger as well. So I don't really see the need for Garnacho, particularly at that asking price. In terms of his potential, I don't really see Garnacho blossoming into a world-class player. And for me, £60 million is a sort of money that you put towards a player that is almost guaranteed to become a world-class player or very close. For me, Garnacho is a punt in that respect. I think he's a solid potential Champions League group stage player, but I don't really see him blossoming into one of the best wingers in the world. And I think Chelsea are stacked in terms of wing play and wingers anyway. And they've got players like Esteval coming in, even like someone like Payet could potentially play out wide and cut in as well. So I don't really understand this signing from a Chelsea point of view. I think there's bigger concerns within the squad that, you know, if they tweak and get it right, they're potentially pushing for title in the next few years. Garnacho is not that type of player that's going to push them to the next level. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, share, and subscribe, and see you guys again next time. Bye.